I'm not ashamed.
What was the bread that God provided Israel called? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Exodus on Walking the Bible.
His word, the glory of his cross.
If you have a Bible with you, you can turn to Exodus chapter 16. We're going to be reading from verses 27 to 36. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Exodus chapter 16, beginning verse 27. Now it happened that some of the people went out on the seventh day to gather, but they found none. And the Lord said to Moses, How long do you refuse to keep my commandments and my laws? See, for the Lord has given you the Sabbath, therefore he gives you on the sixth day bread for 2 days. Let every man remain in his place. Let no man go out of his place on the seventh day. So the people rested on the seventh day, and the house of Israel called its name manna. And it was like white coriander seed, and the taste of it was like wafers made with honey. Then Moses said, This is the thing which the Lord has commanded. Fill an omer with it to be kept for your generations, that you may see the bread which I fed you in the wilderness when I brought you out of the land of Egypt. And Moses said to Aaron, Take a pot and put an omer of manna in it, and lay it before the Lord to be kept for your generations. As the Lord commanded Moses, so Aaron laid it up before the testimony to be kept. And the children of Israel ate manna 40 years until they came to an inhabited land. They ate manna until they came to the border of the land of Canaan. Now an omer is 1/10 of an ephah. In this episode, we still find the children of Israel in the wilderness of sin. This wilderness is in what we would call Saudi Arabia today, in between Elam, the place where Israel had come from, and the region of Sinai. While here, the children of Israel complained to Moses that they have no food, and that Moses had brought them out into the wilderness to die. This is probably less than 2 weeks after the Red Sea crossing, which not only shows how short Israel's memory is, but their lack of faith in God as well. God hears Israel's cry and promised to provide them bread in the morning and quail in the evening. God's instructions through Moses and Aaron as to how this bread and quail was to be collected are as follows. The quail would only come in the evening, so they needed to collect it in the evening. In the morning, they would find dew on the ground. And when the dew lifted, they would find a small round substance as fine as frost on the ground. This would be the bread that the Lord provided. When Israel collected this bread, they were to take only what they needed for the day. To help them understand what each person needed, each person was rationed an omer of this bread. An omer is about 2.3 to 3.64 liters, or 0.6 to 1 gallon. So if you had a family of 3, it would be 3 omers, and if you had a family of 10, it would be 10 omers. They weren't to collect more than they needed for that day, for if they did, the bread left over until the next day became infested with worms and stunk. The exception to this rule was on the 6th day, for on that day they were to gather bread for 2 days. The reason? The 7th day was the Sabbath day of rest, a holy day to the Lord. We will see the instructions for this day laid out in more detail later on in this book. Most of the children of Israel followed these instructions. However, from today's reading, some of them did not. Some went out on the 7th day to gather bread and found none. The Lord is angry at the children of Israel for disobeying his command. He told Moses that he provided them enough bread for 2 days on the 6th day of the week, but then commanded them to rest on the 7th day. So why couldn't Israel obey this simple command? Remember, God was testing Israel here and providing them food to see if they would obey his commands. They have twice failed this test, once earlier by keeping bread until the next day, and now by not observing the 7th day of rest. After the Lord's admonishment, we find that Israel did in fact rest on the 7th day. Up to this point, we've been referring to what the Lord provided Israel as bread, for as of yet it has not been named. In verse 31, we read that Israel called it manna, which literally means, what is it? A reference to verse 15 to when they inquired what God had given them. The manna here is described as being like white coriander seeds. To be clear, the verse doesn't say that it was white coriander seeds, but that it was like white coriander seeds. Coriander seed is in the mint family, and as such had a pleasant taste and smell. It is also believed to be good for the digestive system, again showing us that if manna was like this seed, that it contained these properties as well. Traveling in the wilderness would be hard on the body, so having bread that helped with digestion shows God's care for Israel. Due to the fact that the manna was sweet to eat like honey, Israel should have appreciated it more than they obviously did by what they named it. As a memorial for what God had done for them, God commanded Moses and Aaron to take an omer of manna, place it in a pot, and lay it before the Lord to be kept for their generations. This was to be a reminder to Israel that the Lord had provided for them during the time in the wilderness, a point that Israel needed constant reminder of. It is said that Moses and Aaron did so and laid it before the testimony. The testimony is referring to the tablets of stone, tablets that as of yet had not been given, showing us that this statement here is not in chronological order. Neither is the next statement in verse 35, which states that the children of Israel ate manna for 40 years until they came to the promised land of Canaan. It would not be until Numbers that we find out why it took 40 years to get to Canaan, for as far as we're concerned in the book of Exodus, after their stop at Sinai, they were going to go straight there. What kept them out for 40 years will leave up to our study of Numbers. The chapter ends by telling us that an omer was 1/10 of an ephah. And for our understanding, the measurement for an omer was given earlier in this episode. With that, our time is up for today. Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Exodus chapter 17, verses 1 to 7, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time.
I'm not ashamed.
Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.
Of his cross.